missing my real friends.
Oh, Ed said he wasn't going to be here as well.
He's gonna be late. He's at a middle school orchestra concert.
Oh, that's right.
He's gonna
That's
try to
right.
get here as soon as he
Yeah,
can,
I thought he was older than that.
unless it runs. Yeah. Well, he just,
That's not great.
wow, that
What a dick.
was good. That was a dad. You-
Monaco, everybody. You're all
All right. So, anybody here for public participation? Bob, are you here for just watching or just? I'm going to assume not for public participation. Announcements. So, the schedule for when we're going to hear warrant articles is out and not published yet, but maybe tomorrow.
Yes, tomorrow.
The schedule has been updated in the, for the rest of the presentations other than the warrant articles. You'll see that we moved the schools to May 6th. And we're gonna hear their budget and their warrant article request all on May 6th. I told them it'd be a good idea to carve out time before the beginning of town meeting in case there's anything that they come up short on and we need more information for May the 11th, Monday night. But hopefully we won't have to do that. Here, Roger. Sit anywhere.
Yeah.
So, and a couple of other things got moved a little, but not a lot. I think if it were your subcommittee, you'd know. I heard from Mark Woods, Capital Budget Committee has completed their review of all of the DPW warrant requests. They approved them 6-0, so, and had some discussions about some of them. I think I forwarded those to you.
Yep, thanks.
Just to kind of know what their thoughts were, and then moving through theirs, I think they're meeting right now to go through more warrant articles, and he's gonna give me their votes. Mark Woods is gonna try to be here when we go through
Great.
our side of it. Hopefully moving toward them focusing on kind of the real need and the timing, and us focusing on does it fit in the budget, and, you know, the timing of some of those expenditures, and so maybe we can all be responsible for that. All right, moving on. So we'll start with, is anybody here? Is this it for the night, right? We don't have anybody better than this.
Yeah, they have all of the central.
Yeah.
And
So I was just gonna take people out of order if they were waiting till the end, so. All right, 149 Central Administration.
Okay, come on up, guys. Let me just preface this. There's a lot of individual accounts. People who've been on the team here a while know. We do each one individually. We voted them individually, talked about them individually, they voted.
Frank, pull that microphone up, maybe.
Pull it up. Okay.
I want to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. So that account is broken down into all the individual line items, and we'll go through each one of them. We voted on each one of them, and they're listed here in the memo that Patrick gave you in the order that I think you want to take them, Mr. Chairman. Just as a preface, as of tonight, we voted all of these, and they were all a 2-0-0 vote, but we can review that at the end. And the amounts are as published in this memo, so you'll know, Mr. Chairman, to record it, okay?
Okay.
All right, so, Central Supply?
Thank you very much. No change requested for the amount for this year, $145,000. This funds the central supply budget for town departments, so there is a number of supplies that are managed through the town administrator's office. Primarily, I think the greatest expense we see here is central postage, which we have seen an increase in that category, subcategory of this over the last several years. So continuing with the program that's been in place for a few years now.
Yep, so it's level funded,
Mm-hmm.
200.
Okay.
Postage is a big piece of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doug, I may add that it was just a couple of years ago where we added some money to this account to sort of right-size it, and figured we'd buy a couple of years out of that. And We'll likely still spend it all, but we feel like we can make it work for another year.
Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Roger, you going to approve?
Second?
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second.
I
Yep.
think we normally do central supply and machine together, and that makes up the operating budget, and then all the others are accommodated, we do them separately.
Is that
Okay.
true?
But I think that's how I.
It's that the way, okay.
Yeah, I think you're right.
They're all
The,
149 and I didn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
but they're all one, okay. So you want to do,
Central
Central
administration,
machine.
central machine.
That would cover the operating budget.
okay, we did vote them separately in the subcommittee, but that doesn't matter. So, central machine, and I refer you to the backup if anybody's interested in kind of the breakdown of the machines, what's leased, what's what they use for, color, black and white, estimated yearly totals. And so it's an estimated number. This has been consolidated a lot on it, and I think the administrator's office manages this pretty much. And we voted, it's level funded, and we voted 200.
Any questions about that? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just because I'm curious, what is it that falls under select board office that their number's so large?
We have a machine that I think gets used for a lot of the town meeting prep,
Okay,
so,
it's the town meeting stuff.
yeah.
That makes sense.
So, but September and January, we do a lot of in-house printing.
Makes total
Yeah,
sense.
I think it's probably the biggest machine, too.
Yeah, and there are a couple other departments that use it based on other capabilities it has, so.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, so that's at 30,000.
Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just looking at some of the history here as far as what's been spent in the past and what's spent to date this year, FY '26. And I'm just trying to understand or align with how you're looking for 30,000, and based on what you spent in 2025 and also what's been spent to date FY '26, it just doesn't seem like it's at that type of run rate.
Yeah. So it looks like the actuals for 2024 are a little bit closer to the experience there. But I think we do expect, we'll have to look at that account to see why, to make sure everything was applied correctly. It's just 1,600, that doesn't seem right for through 1/22/26. But I think the experience at least probably mirrors what happened in 2024. So I think we do expect,
Is this just timing on
It-
leases
yeah,
for
for
the
the
year?
year.
yeah.
Right. is
Yeah,
it-
so there's
is it-
click charges to all of them too. So depending on if it was so we pay per print for per page too. So you have the leases and the lease payment and the maintenance. And then we have what's called click charges. So you can see in the backup that it has an estimate for, what the lease payment is, what we're estimating for those other charges. And, if it's a slower year or we don't have any leases that are up where we're renewing, then that will be,
But, so the lease charges and the maintenance, how is that billed and paid? Is that on a monthly basis, quarterly basis?
I believe monthly. Sam's here. Oh, there he is. Sam, everybody.
Pull up a chair.
Hi. So the charges for the copiers, the Ricoh copiers that we use, come out of central machine. There was a little confusion lately about which account those should have been charged out of, so they were being charged out of central supply. So there was some staffing transition, and I think they were paying it out of central supply, like toward the end of last year, and then into this year, and we're correcting for that, so that, we would use an end-of-year transfer to help balance between things, but that, we're reapplying it to the correct spot. So when I had been looking at RICO charges, I've been looking at under vendor, and I wasn't checking which account, so I'll take the hit for some misalignment there, but that would explain the discrepancy, that there was a transition in which of the two accounts those charges were being applied to. So that'll be balanced
Does
out.
that mean that, sorry,
No, go ahead.
does that mean that central supply spent to date is overstated?
Yes, so the central supply number will be corrected downward, and the central machine number will be corrected back upward. The 2025 numbers are what they are, but that would help explain some of the overage we see in the actual for '25 versus the budget number, and why the '25 actual for central machine is lower than it should be.
Do you have a feel of how much that is, or?
I know that right now, our payments to RICO, I looked this up today, for this current year is just under 17,000. So that'll move from the central supply number over to central machine. But that would put us about on track for what we had projected for.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Steve?
Yeah, just one question. In terms of usage, how does the town clerk compare to the select board's office? And what was there was one other that was kind of in the same ballpark for largeness.
Steve, do you mean usage or just price?
Well,
So-
mostly usage, but
So select board and clerk both have color printers, color copiers. So
Okay.
so those, the cost just more for those. And rec is probably the other one. They have a big color copier over there too.
what is the town clerk's print load?
I don't have it here.
I don't know off the top of my head, but I would say that it would make logical sense that behind the select board office is preparing for town meeting, that they have a pretty high print load, as far as managing elections and the things that go on involved with printing and organizing on that front. So, I mean, as you can see, the total is about $4,000 for the year. So that's not surprising to me as an office that manages sometimes 3 elections per year.
I just figure with all the record searches and things like that, that the select board would come close, or sorry, the town clerk would come close, but I'm all set, thanks.
Cheyenne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a clarification on that last point, the discrepancy between central supply and central machine. So the year-to-date spending would be, what, 65,000 for central supply and about 17,000 or 19,000 for central machine?
Yeah, that's about right, I would say.
Oh. Thank you.
Sam's wandering up. Did you have a comment? Do you have some help?
I was just going to say the 17,000 would be to March, while your spent-to-date number was set in like January or February.
Right.
So if you take the 17 from central supply right now, it brings it to just under 100,000, and it would bring central machine up to close to 20.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
Thanks.
thank you.
Anybody else?
Just
Deb?
have one general question. Is there like the, sort of the split between lease and own? Are we moving towards owning, sticking with leasing? Any advantage?
It's an annual discussion.
Yeah, when the
Sam.
owned copiers meet the end of their life, then it's usually a lease after that.
Got it.
Sometimes you have a really good machine that's a workhorse and doesn't have a whole lot of stuff on it, so it's buy it out at the end and own it.
Thanks.
Any other questions? A motion?
Motion to approve 175,000 of the operating budget for 149 central administration.
Second.
All right. Let's see, Cheyenne,
Yes.
Chris Campbell,
Yes.
John Eiler,
Yes.
Deb McCarthy.
Yes.
Frank Monaco.
Yes.
Steve Moran.
Steve?
Steve?
Sorry, I forgot, yes.
Paul Noonan,
Yes.
Rick Rasso,
Yes.
Roger Riggs.
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. That's 1000. That's right, I didn't miss anybody, right? Do this real quick. So next budget is Chapter 32B, employee benefits.
Right, so there's a lot to this, and I'm sure Patrick will do his best to give you the Cliff Notes version, and then we can dig into it more if you want to. I would preface it by saying there is just no question that the cost of health insurance is going up. We also have, and I just want to go into this a little bit, Patrick. Historically, we've been making up the increases in that budget for the past couple of years by burning down the savings, the trust fund positive balance. The trust fund now is at around $7 million. And if you look at the size of the budget, it's not all that big a balance because you can get, we're self-funded, so you can get into a whale of trouble if your trust fund
Sure.
can't pay the bills.
Sure.
And the premiums are already set. So the increase this year is pretty modest. It's at 9%. We're still well below what the industry is running. The employee premiums picked up about a 14% increase on their end. So what's coming in from garnishing premiums is up quite a bit, and you'll see that in the rates that are published back here. The actual budget increase is 9%, and we think that will give us a good enough position that we're running pretty safely for what we expect. And this is going to change with time, probably. So I think Patrick's got a whole bunch of ideas on this and how to manage it, but we are self-funded. We're doing very well. Believe it or not, our cohort is really good, and our experiences on costs and expenses still are very favorable. So that's where it sits, and we voted 200 for the increase asked for.
Mr. Chair, thank you, Frank. Yeah, so I think that there's no surprise that this is an area, this is the, single biggest cost area for the town. And the, 9% is relatively modest for what we're seeing in increases across not only the private sector payers, but public sector payers as well. We're seeing that between 12 and 15% in some of the better case scenarios, particularly with the self-insured trust as well. But this is an area I think that we have to, well, we do spend a significant amount of time analyzing, studying, and understanding what's best for the taxpayers, what's best for the folks in the plan, and what's best for us as the plan sponsor as well. And I think that, over the next couple of years, we may see increases of varying amounts. I think towards the 9 to 15% range of where this should be. As Frank mentioned, there was a 14% increase this year for the employee rates, which is the highest, I think, in quite a long time. And that's really responsive to what we're seeing for trends, medical cost trends nationwide and regionally, as well as prescription cost trends. And so, as a self-funded plan, I should say that part of this funds a insured plan. So our Medicare supplement plans are all insured plans. Those aren't self-funded, and those we provide for our almost 800 or 760 retirees are part of insured plans, and the rest, about 790 for active employees, their dependents as well. So it's a pretty big plan as far as the sort of responsibility of what we're doing. And I think that, there's a lot of different approaches to self-insured plans, and I think that we have connected the approach to town share premium, employee share premium, where we are the payer of claims, not necessarily the payer of premiums. And so shifting to think about this from more of a perspective of how we are managing the trust from a multi-year perspective, there has been a concerted effort to leverage that trust balance in order to mitigate rate increases in the last several years. And I think that, from my perspective, a self-funded trust should probably have between 6 months to 12 months of claims, which be a little bit of a different variation from how the approach has been, I think. And I think that we should be comfortable with a high balance in the trust, or should we get to a point where we have a higher balance in the trust, then we're using that trust to generate interest income to offset those increases or to make plan design changes strategically. So, this is not an effort that occurs, solely in one office. This is an effort that relies on a number of offices within the town, school employees, town employees, and our employee advisory committee. So, like I said, Frank said, we can spend as much time as you'd like to talk about the details of this, but I think that our approach moving forward is just like we are doing with the operating budget and the general fund, thinking about this in a multi-year approach. And, the way that I've managed self-insured trusts in the past is from a 5-year financial planning process, and creating those, self-mitigation efforts for high claims, and really, focusing on, there's a real balance that we have to strike here for the cost of the plan and how that plays with employee retention and employee recruitment. That's a big piece of this year. And so I think that another piece of it too is constantly looking inward to the plan to make sure what are the changes that we can make that will make this budget a little bit more predictable. What are the ways that we can leverage plan design changes while also not sort of losing core benefits. So it's a real balancing act, but I think that the next couple of years are going to be very, very important for this program. And I say program sort of generally speaking, very, very important for the self-insured trust, how we manage it, how we sponsor the plan, and our sort of relationship that occurs with the Insurance Advisory Committee. But ultimately, it was the Insurance Advisory Committee that took the recommendation of town administration and moved forward with recommending the 14% increase for this year. So happy to take any questions.
Questions? Roger?
How'd you come up with the 14% number? I'm just kind of curious.
So we work with a consultant that works with us on what claim trend is looking like. So we look at our past claim trends, so Burlington employees and what it's looking like as far as cost trends for the services that they're utilizing. And then we create a budget based on that. And by creating the budget, we looked at where we would need to be under a number of different scenarios, and 14% was, I think, we looked at 16%, 14%, 12%, and what can happen in those, at least for the employee rates, what can happen in those situations to make that challenging, how much would require mitigation from the trust, how much wouldn't require, how much would sort of be a goal to break even. I think that the health trust should be either breaking even or generating a surplus most years. And that 14% is what got us to sort of that break-even amount with with a change in sort of coverage for GLP-1 medications that most other insurers were taking on this year. So.
Right. Well, given your earlier comment about thinking that the trust could have a slightly higher value, just as a little more sort of conservative backstop for things, it seemed like the higher number, breaking even is kind of a minimum, but wanting to grow it slightly, but not so much that it actually hurts the people who have to contribute.
And that's exactly the balance that we tried to take this year, because, and that's where that 14% got us. And I think that it's really challenging, obviously, with utilization being up for us in particular, and I think most plans, as well as costs and nationally and for prescription drugs, certain prescription drugs, we're seeing a lot of this happening at once. And I think that we enjoyed many years on the employee rate side here of very low increases. So this is a little bit of self-adjustment for that, but I think that the 14% plus the town appropriation got us to a place where it's at least a break even.
One more.
Sure.
Have you discussed sort of reinforcing plan, what do they call it, plan features that would help improve or decrease the costs?
Yes, so we have a number of different plans, so I think that one of the plan cost areas is trying to get folks to, or encourage folks to look at moving to our HSA plan, which is a higher deductible plan, but it comes with a health savings account, which for many people in this sector is a very different type of health plan.
Okay.
But I think that there's a big education piece that goes along with it. There's a big study, there's a lot of studying to do about how better we can incentivize folks to be in those types of plans. And then there's a lot of looking at how we create internal plan equity or cost plan equity. So while I try not to think of us as a premium-based plan because we are a claims-based plan, but if I were to apply the same standards of a premium-based plan based on the percentage shares, making sure that the cost per subscriber is as equal as it can be among the sort of basic HMO plans or the standard HMO plans. And I think that we have some work to do there. So while all plans in the self-insured area this year were 14%, there may be it may look different in the future where some plans that are costing us more per subscriber may see more of an increase than other plans. And that's not a new thing in the past from history here either. But there's a big education piece to it, and there's also a sort of strategic investments in those plans as well.
Yeah, HSAs can benefit the subscribers quite a bit, depending on their own individual conditions.
Yeah, and it's kind of telling that story too. You know, a bunch of us that are on that plan try to communicate to people that, you know, it's the benefits and sort of how to navigate those. So.
People don't just jump on that. They look at it as I'm putting money away and it's just sitting there. But it is a real benefit in the long run, so we need to get more people on that if we can.
Right.
One other thing, Patrick, we're maintaining the stop-loss insurance, and so we look at that on a mini-max basis. We look at what does it cost and what are our risks if we bought more, bought less of it, so that we don't get caught in a high payout without insurance, and so we continue to do that.
And that's become a product that's pretty expensive. It's becoming very expensive.
Yeah.
Reinsurance, and we have made some tweaks in the past of, you know, the look-back period of that rather than 12-month, 24-month look-back. So that's something that we I think try to tweak a lot based on where, you know, what is the claim value threshold? That's changed in the last several years from, you know, 125,000, 150,000. Where are we seeing those? And also finding out, we have a lot of data from the stop-loss insurance where what are our high-value claims and how can we target those a little bit differently through other programs, or how do we shape, that's more of a multi-year question, right? How do we shape our programs based on where those high-value claims are coming from? Because they're not always, you know, what you may think is a high-value claim. They're not these massive surgeries that are happening, but how these long-standing high-value claims are and how we can make strategic investments to work on those.
And
Sure.
just one other observation, or recalling that the fire and police have separate plans that cover medical, work-related problems, right?
So not, the distinction there, it's not a health insurance expense. They are not covered by workers' comp in the same way that a non-public safety, a non-fire police would be covered. They're covered under Mass General Law, Chapter 111F, which requires us to sort of continue to pay their salary and not from a workers' compensation plan.
Health insurance, this is everybody.
Yep. Yeah.
Everybody.
This is.
Right, okay. But as you said, the work-related
Workers' comp.
workers' comp is is a separate
Right.
Correct.
consideration.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, got a few questions on this, mainly education. So I like your idea on the trust fund, and if I hear that correctly, where it's roughly 7 now, our claims are 20, so you're looking to have it, that trust fund grow to somewhere in the 10 to 20 range.
That's correct.
Okay, and that makes total sense. If I remember correctly, is it correct that retirees are required to switch over to Medicare when they're eligible?
Retirees, yes.
Yeah, okay. And but do we continue to pay the percent of Medicare premiums for them?
Not Medicare premiums, they can enroll in a Medicare supplement plan, which we have quite a bit of employees, of retirees in, and there's varying levels of premium split rate based on when those employees
Is
retire.
that like a Medigap plan, or?
Yes,
Okay. So we don't pay any of their standard Part B and D premiums, though?
so there are some plans that by enrolling in ours, those plans sort of absorb those costs.
Like Medicare Advantage?
Yes, so there are a number of different plans within here that provide sort of a variety of those, but some of them sort of absorb all those costs and they sort of take over the Medicare portion. So that's what we see.
And we pay part of premium on that?
Correct.
Okay, but if they're not on one of those plans, they're just doing standard Part B and D, do we pay a portion of that still, or?
No, only if they're if they're enrolled in one of these plans.
I see, okay. And, all right, and I'm trying, the final things have to do with just understanding the number of people in this. So when you say 786 active and 764 retired, that's people enrolled in plans that are town plans? Or-
Yes, those are school employees, so yeah, those are individuals, not individuals plus subscribers or dependents.
Right.
Those are plan subscribers.
And what fraction of the people eligible to be in a plan does that represent to you? I'm trying to understand, how many people are signing up for this versus being on a spouse's plan or something like that?
That is a good question. I think town and school, we might have 1,200
I have
employees
no
total.
idea. Never tried
Um,
to answer that one.
Yeah. But that, they may not all be benefit eligible, so that's a good question. I can look into that.
Yeah,
It's
that'd be helpful to understand, and sort of the obvious one, and I think we talked about this before, I can't remember where we ended up. Do we in some way incentivize people to be on their spouse's plan rather than our plan?
Yeah, there are a number of programs out there to look at, and that's one of those, one of the things we talk to our health insurance consultant on a monthly basis or twice a month. One of the things we talk about is, talk to us about all the plan innovations that are going on there and the products that we can enroll in, and then what are the other things like a health insurance opt-out program that may generate interest. So there are obviously costs to that, but, what are the parameters we have around that? Do we require them to be on our plan for a year and then they can be on the health insurance opt-out for 6 months or a year, or what are the, but that's definitely something we're looking at to see.
So we're not doing that currently.
Currently, we don't have an opt-out.
And I think what you're talking about makes a lot of sense, because obviously we don't want to be incentivizing people to do things they're going to do anyway.
Right.
And that's sort of the balance there. All right, and then just going back to the enrollees again, the thing I was a little confused about, I think this is just my understanding of what's what here. Looking at the OPEB report on page 6, it has, there it says 645 active and 907 retirees. So I'm trying to understand how those numbers relate to the 786 active and 764 retired described here in health insurance.
So the OPEB report would have been at that moment in time, and I think, right, this is
Yeah, that's
right now.
That's as of December 31st, 2024, and that's,
But did the number of active employees on health insurance go up by 140 over that time? That seems like a huge increase.
Up or down?
Well, yeah, I mean, the OPEB report says 645 active, and this here describes 786 active.
Oh, that could be the case, but what is the total? Does the OPEB report have the retirees?
Yeah, on retirees, it's the opposite. It had 907 retirees versus 764 here.
So the total is around the same, or is it?
Well, no, the total in OPEB is like 1550 versus, oh, well, yeah, I guess it is sort of.
It's been pretty,
You caught me.
it's been
All right.
pretty steady for a few years now, in total.
Well, why would, okay, so it's good that the total is safe, but why would the split change so significantly? It's like retirees became active employees somehow.
Or it just, it's,
Or they went away and we hired a bunch of people.
that's more like it, some
But,
people
I mean,
retire.
It just seems odd it increased by 140 for active employees. That's a number is surprising me in 2 years, because I know we're not changing
Yeah, that
the
is-
account significantly.
That is a lot for 2 years.
Yeah, so what's
Well,
going on there?
there are places where there's a lot of turnover.
Yeah, but that wouldn't change the active employees on the plan,
No, it wouldn't.
so that wouldn't explain.
that's interesting data on that, because if you look at, as I've sort of been diving into the data to prepare a bunch of this stuff, it didn't look like, it looked like it's been pretty flat, particularly for retirees over the last several years.
Right.
So I'm surprised by what that, we can sort of see what data,
And I don't expect you to ferret it out right on the fly here, but you understand what I'm asking?
Oh, yeah,
It-
perfectly.
There seems to be an inconsistency.
Yes.
and confusion. Okay, great.
Well,
Thank you.
people could stay on OPEB and drop out of the medical insurance.
Yeah, again, 140 people. over
Yeah, the
here is
number's
a
too
huge
high.
change.
Yeah, it would
That
be.
Isn't
You're
explained
right.
by anything I've heard.
We would definitely, 140 turnover in 2 years is not out of the question, but every one of them taking insurance would be a
Well,
little
but
odd.
again, turnover wouldn't change the active count. It would change who they are, but it wouldn't change the count.
That's what I mean, if they all took over, if.
Oh, it
adding-
would be as if you hired 140 people.
Yeah, or-
None of them used to be on insurance, all the new ones are.
And I can't imagine
Yeah.
people are switching to
I
our
gotta imagine
insurance from.
it's the same participation rate
Yeah.
roughly.
Which will caught me off guard because I've been looking at how many total we have
Right.
subscribed plans, which
Okay.
hasn't really changed over time. So
Right.
that's what caught me off guard. So
Yeah.
We'll have to,
It would be good to make sure there isn't something fishy going on here.
Yep.
Or something surprising, I'm sure it's not fishy. Wrong word.
Thank you. Let's watch our words.
Well,
I don't know, it's got to be.
they got to figure it out. There is a 2-year lag in the OPEB report, so we got to look
Yeah.
at that.
Anyway, put that on the to-do list. Thank you.
In the parking lot. Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Speaking of the HSA offering, so I noticed that there was like a 5% increase in our town's contribution, and I'm just curious as to what's driving that increase.
from that sort of the 26 budget to the 27
Yeah,
budget?
yeah. I'm assuming that, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I think that that's a hopeful projection that more people will enroll in it. And so when there's more sort of enrollment in that area, we will see greater required contributions to those HSA plans. So what that budget for right there is the amount that we contribute to the HSA plan based on individuals and families. So we contribute $1,800 for individual plans and $3,600 for family plans. So what we're looking at there is sort of a hopeful growth in enrollees in that plan.
So a combination, you think, is it going to be people going from individual to family, or just new participants?
New participants in the HSA plan.
Okay, and what is the trend then in prior years?
So we have seen growth of, I don't know
Slow.
exactly, but slow but steady growth in people joining that plan. So, new employees that have had HSA plans in other places coming on and replacing someone who might have left, that was in an active plan, that is now joining the replacement being in an HSA plan.
Okay, do you know what the amount, the actuals for FY '25 was? And what the year-to-date are for
Yeah,
'26?
so we have, I believe, 4 more people in the HSA family plan than we had in the prior year.
Okay, so that's another 15,000,
Right,
a little more, actually. You said 3,600?
3,600, I believe, yeah.
18,000. So, but what were the actuals in FY '25, do you know?
The actual for enrollment,
Or the
All right.
contribution amount, yeah? The town's contribution amount.
I don't have that on top of my head, but it was not too far off from what the, let me see it. It'll take me a minute if you,
No, that's all right, I mean, or do you have it handy, or?
let me see here.
So,
We have seen steady growth in that, I know, over the last several years. Let me just see if I have.
And is that paid out, when is that actually, is that paid out like every
Quarterly.
6 months? Or- oh, it's
Quarterly, yeah. So, the actual for 2025 was 275,890,
Oh, okay.
which is slightly lower than the 26 budget, so.
Right, okay, all right, thank you.
Sorry, that took me
Appreciate
a minute there, sorry.
No, that would have been helpful just to know that, some of the actuals. But, it's fine, thanks.
Deb?
Thank you. Hi, couple questions. So, to your point on, there's a line item on your 3-page projection sheet for health reimbursement charges, HMO plans. Is that an HRA contribution for the HMO? Or is that
So,
something-
yeah, so what that is that is a reimbursement of a portion of deductible for the HMO plans. So, that's happens to be another area that we're looking at for internal plan equity to make sure that, you know, how we're sort of buying down those deductibles a little bit is essentially what that is. So it allows for a certain amount based on one of the HMO plans for the deductible to be reimbursed.
Okay. But by doing that, you're not, like, are you required to do that? Because if you don't do it at the same extent, maybe you'll push more people towards the lower cost HSA.
It's exactly this, one of the strategies.
Okay, okay.
Yeah,
Have you also considered like doing sort of I see all the different town versus employee shares. Again, the buy up, buy down concept, sort of have a flat contribution across plans. So if they want the more expensive plan, they have to buy up to pay versus
yeah,
the cheaper plans.
it's an interesting concept. We're required by law to contribute at least 50%.
Okay.
Right, so, you know, and that gets a little bit, when you say that, you know, it's, because we're a self-insured plan, that is a little different, but there's also still that requirement there of how the premium is split, because we are required to develop a total premium and then split that up by some amount.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I think that there are a bunch of creative approaches that we're looking at. I think that when we tell our health insurance consultant and they ask us, do you want us to look at these different types of plans, we tell them, give us everything. Because, you know, we do have we have 2 HMO plans, an HSA plan, and a PPO plan.
A lot.
And that's a lot.
Yep.
You know, we're also,
And on the retiree side, I noticed, you've got, for each of those plans, there's 4 different options based on the cost share. Is that sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not historical, is that sort of
It-
grandfathered people in
Yes.
plans
Yeah.
that we
It
can't
is
move them
historical.
out?
well, there's sort of dates based on that. I mean, there can be changes to those. Obviously, those changes would have significant impacts on
Mhm.
retirees that might be on fixed income, so there's factors in all of those.
Right.
similar to the factors there are on our active employees, and changes, you know, changes to those can create, you know, affordability challenges.
Right.
Or how we match up to other communities offering similar plans.
Right.
But I think that there's a real balance for, I've, you know, in my 10 months here have created some earthquakes around health insurance, and most people are still talking to me. But trying to effectuate as many changes as possible, anything from, you know, when we start, you know, what the plan year start, change, you know, we're a January 1 plan. I would like to see us get to a July 1 plan so that we can have a much more predictable approach to this, and sort of the simplification efforts around plan options. That has a real impact to people that I don't take lightly, I think is what I want to try to say. Because, you know, people are used to, it's a real important, you know, people have plans, they have doctors that take those plans, they're used to a certain, you know, health insurance card and their benefits, and that's a real thing for people that I think that we do understand and appreciate. It doesn't mean that we're going to, you know, make wholesale changes for the sake of change.
Right.
But it also doesn't mean that we're not going to look at every possible change to simplify things and get the best rate that we can.
For everybody.
For everybody.
I'm doing this right now for my job, and it is extremely complicated, and like, you have way more plans than we do.
How many plans are you supporting?
3.
Yeah,
So,
I've seen
like,
some offer only one.
One of the hard parts when you think about this, especially if you're doing it in the private sector now, is you have to forget everything you know about premium plans and how to lower the premium, so then you're putting less money in. That would be less money we're putting in, but in the end, we pay the claim,
Bills.
not Blue Cross Blue Shield. So if everybody went in the cheapest plan, that's just less money we have in the till to pay the claims. So you almost have to forget the way you know it of saving money. Yeah, it might save what we're putting in the trust,
I have to flip it
but
up.
if the money's not in the trust to pay the claim,
Right.
And there are a lot of sort of non-traditional ways to reduce claim costs that we're always thinking about too. Like, you know, actually, I think that the idea of wellness in the workplace has always been, you know, more of a buzzword and less of an actionable thing. And trying to think about how to apply, you know, meaningful wellness that would reduce claims. And I think that, you know, there are a whole host of things that we're looking at, and you know, I think that sort of it's a little bit more incremental that I think that my patience works for, but I think that that's okay, because I think that, you know, this is a real component of the benefits, obviously, that our employees value and how we value them. And so we have to take that, we have to wear that hat once, you know, and then we also have to wear the hat of mitigating to the taxpayer impact and the impact on the overall budget. So we're wearing a number of hats during this, but I think we'll hopefully have a better sort of product in the end, financially.
Luck.
Other questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the Chapter 32B employee benefits at $20,180,017. Cheyenne?
No.
Okay. Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Adler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes?
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 9-1-0.
Just as a point of information, Mr. Chairman, on this, if I may.
Sure.
Do we have any contractual obligation relative to providing health insurance?
We have a contractual and a legal obligation.
So it's
Statutory.
statutory, right, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Thank you.
OPEB,
Piece of cake.
yeah. 9% increase.
What do you want to know?
Move on.
Okay, the OPEB program, the actuarial report is as of December 24, and we have by the passage of time program of a percentage increase every year of 9.3 or something like that. And the idea of that program, it's been running now about a decade, I guess, is to set the increase every year to match the burn down of the actuarial liability, so that at some point, the asset, the fund, starts to catch up with the liability, and then the liability starts to diminish as the asset grows. John did some yeoman's, it has been for quite a while, on how we're performing in terms of earnings. The program is running, I'd say, very well. And one point I'd make, and I don't want to steal your thunder here, Patrick, but off the 24 report, it looks like our liability will go what I call the crossover point. In other words, when you start out, you got this huge liability, and you got no assets. And the assets are trying to catch up while the liability is growing. So at some point, if you're doing it right, your asset class actually starts to catch up, and the liability really declines. We look like we've got a break-even point right now based on the actuarial report of 2040, and based on the earnings that we're getting, that actually seems to be pretty healthy. And we have a retirement of the liability to be fully funded in 2048. So that's what this program's all about. We have no legal obligation to do this, but it's a really good financial practice to get rid of your liabilities that you cannot get out of by doing the passage of time payments, and that's what we've been doing. So we voted 2-0 in favor to keep the funding as it is set up. One thing which we will talk about, we didn't talk about this in the subcommittee, but when we get around to free cash, we typically have a little discussion about should we throw some free cash at liabilities. The two obvious liabilities are debt, interest, and OPEB, which is an unfunded liability. And in the beginning, we used to superfund the payments into OPEB to sort of goose it up. We haven't done that probably in 3 or 4 years, I don't think, and I don't know that we will, and I don't see that we have a need to, so this is where we sit. And Patrick, you should probably say something, you know more than I do about this.
No, I think that the only changes that I list on the notes that I forward, the trust balance was 21 million, and that was as of 2024, that as the trust balance is actually around 24 million now, with a liability, unfunded liability of 110 million, which I think comparatively is a pretty okay place to be. And the 9.3% annual increases is an aggressive approach, and I think being able to continue on that path, will be important to maintaining
with.
that
Yeah.
is how that liability is as low as 110 million. I know that doesn't sound low, but relatively speaking. So I think that this continues that sort of long-standing approach, as Frank said, to addressing that unfunded liability.
There was one point that Ed Parsons made that I want to bring out. If you look at our contribution, it grows by 9-point-something% every year. So we're already well over $1 million. If you look at like 2040, our contribution would be $4 million, $4.6 million, which is coming right out of your accommodated accounts. One of the questions is, should you revisit how aggressive you want to be with your contributions as we get further into the out years, as we start to get the unfunded liability down. So we'll see how we perform. I don't think there's any reason to think we wouldn't revisit the funding rate of this as a Ways and Means Administration at some point, either by necessity or, we could get away with it, but I don't know that answer.
One of the things that will trigger that is if the retirement system, if our regular 6.5% increases as we got closer to the mandatory, fully funded stage for them, was lagging behind, and that increase turned into more like a 9.3 increase. You may hear from us saying, well, we're going to need to
Swap 'em.
swip these for a little
Right,
while.
so this is-
And this is what it would do to us.
Yeah.
But that's something we look at every time we have the actuarial done and say, if we took our foot off the gas or put our foot on the gas, how does that
Right,
affect?
and-
I think we had Kathy run us like 15 different scenarios
Yeah.
last time. If we gave them $1 million a year for 5 years.
What would it do?
Or $5 million at once, and
Yeah, and I think that the other concept that's out there that I think that is not unique to us, definitely not unique to us, is once that pension liability is paid off, switching from the unfunded liability portion that's dedicated towards pension, moving it to OPEB, and seeing how meaningful that will be to resolve that liability in what could be several, on the low end of several years sooner than the current schedule. So, understanding how those two unfunded liabilities will be connected, I think is going to be a big part of what's happening in the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, we'll get there. Stay tuned. There's also another factor in this, which is debt service. So we're now really wrapping our head around the fact that we've got to manage debt service, the non-exempt debt service, as well as the exempt, as a percentage of your operating budgets. So depending on what happens there in the next 5 years, that may influence how much we've got to play with. So we just don't really know, but I would say we have a lot of decent options to manage this. And I would leave OPEB alone at the moment. That's what we voted 200.
And I think because of the history of starting to fund it and on a pretty aggressive schedule ahead of time, allows you to have that flexibility of thinking about doing something different rather than folks that have just been kicking the can and now need to put it in gear.
Right. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to make sure I understand it, this assumes it says 3.25% total payroll increase a year, which I assume sort of implies a relatively level headcount assumption. Is that the right way to read that?
The actuarial report builds headcount growth in. It's not much.
Well, it's 3.25%, which, you know,
Of salaries, you mean?
yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't look at the number.
So that's not allowing a lot of room for headcount growth unless.
That's right, there's not a lot, but it is, they do look at it.
Which I think is reasonable. And, yeah, I mean, certainly I would suggest it makes more sense, if we quote have money to burn, it would be better to, not that we do, it would be better to put that into debt service than.
Yeah, there's this little problem called the high school.
Because there's a clear.
The other
percentage
unfunded
cost-
liability.
A clear percentage cost associated with the debt service. So just, as Frank mentioned, I did look at the rate of return based on our actual valuations. And right now, it's coming out at 8.5%, which is great compared to the 7% discount rate we're assuming. And, that bounces up and down by, 0.5% every year, depending on how the stock market does. So, don't assume that'll happen forever, but so far, it's been looking good compared against the 7%. So that's encouraging.
So, John, as Paul Sagarino used to tell me, the market giveth and the market taketh. So don't get too far out there.
Yeah, but, this is, for those comparing at home, this is, definitely lower than the stock market, but it's also much more a diversified fund, so the risk is,
Low.
in theory, lower in terms of the deviation on that. And I think if I get inspired and want to bother our treasurer a little more, I'm tempted to do a similar thing for the Middlesex retirement plan, just to see.
You may scare yourself.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, my understanding is they're in the same prim fund, and in theory, one would anticipate the results are similar, but it would probably be good to validate that, understand, if there is a difference, why that might be. Hopefully there isn't. And then the final one is sort of probably an unanswerable question, but so our we got the OPEB reports every 2 years from Siegel. The last one was for the period ending calendar year 24. And that came out in August of 25. And the question is, why is there an 8-month lag from the period to when they actually give us the report? I understand there's some work, but
Yeah, I think that
seems like a lot of work.
no, that's always one of those, at least in my experience with these, is there's a lot of work with data collection, there's a lot of work with getting data from the retirement system, there's a lot of work from data internally, and then I have always said the same thing, is we need to get, not here, there's always room to improve on that schedule of getting the data to the actuary faster and having the actuary produce the report faster. So, yeah, without knowing exactly, I think that it's just prioritizing the data collection, getting the data correct, creating these systems to collect the data better and transmit it better. That, in my experience, has always been what's been the holdup, is all these sources of data, getting it in, formatting the data and getting it, and that's not a good excuse, it's just
We're not unusual in this regard, is what I'm hearing, and so that's kind of the way it goes.
yeah.
Got it.
We all, but not saying that there's not room for improvement.
Yeah, it would be great if it could be shorter, but, the good news is, since we're kind of on a plan, it probably won't change what we're doing to have it earlier. It's just always good to have it earlier if you can.
Sure, yes.
I would guess that the past data is easy. The projections for the future take a lot more guesswork.
Well, it's a 2-year window, so there's actually quite a bit to collect.
Right. But we're asking them to project out.
And we pay like 20 grand to get it done, I think. So we wouldn't do it any more often. And I also think we actually get it early, we start to get output from it after about 3 months. We have to do reviews of it.
Yeah, generally speaking, there's sort of what the actuary will do is give you a file, get all this data. It should be really easy to get all this data. That's not always the case. And then we provide them that data. They do some data checks. They do some, we get drafts of it to make sure that things are looking right. But, I think that being able to get into a place where, we know where this data is coming and we know how to prepare
Yeah.
for it. So there's streamlining opportunity.
Pre-scrub.
Yeah.
Pre-scrub.
Deb?
I have a basic question, if you can just clarify. So, obviously, we've got the different line item, Middlesex Retirement, that has benefits for actives and retirees. We have the Chapter 32 has benefits for active employees and retirements. So what specific benefits are we paying out of the OPEB trust?
So this is the funding for future liabilities that we're going to have for retirees' health insurance. So right now, yes.
Okay.
And probably a tiny bit of life insurance sometimes, but there's actually a point of we are just solely depositing into the health trust, and then there's a point in time where that health trust will then be able to start making those benefit payments from that trust. So right now, from the 32B account, we're paying sort of the normal costs, the actual costs of today.
Okay.
And then we are funding,
The cost for 30 years from now.
Correct.
22.
Yeah.
This is the sins of the past, right? We never accrued enough money to cover all of the post-employment retiree health benefits, which is contractually we're obligated to, but we have no budget for it. So what this does is it puts in place a trust fund, sort of a prepaid mechanism where, based on its earnings and who's going to collect every year, the money's already there without having to go into the operating budget and, have to superfund this stuff.
So these are all based on the employment contracts. This isn't legally mandated by the state.
Correct. Yet.
Well, so retiree rates aren't, there are some statutory obligations we have, but the rates are set by the select board, not an employment contract.
Anyone else?
Move to approve?
Okay.
So we have a motion and a second to approve $1,329,816 for OPEB. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0. Debt service?
Yes.
Is that a motion?
Pay our bills.
Sure enough. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the backup. So they've provided for us the existing debt service, and that for FY '27, that comes out at 6.7 million, which means we already owe that. And then coming onto the schedule, if you look at the proposed debt service, it goes all the way down through May of '26, and we pick up another, oh, I don't know, $4 million, I guess, something like that, 3.5, that will come on for the FY '27 obligations that we've already approved. And you can look at that list: the police station, Fox Hill, Marshall Simons, there's some work, Town Hall Annex and HVAC repairs, sidewalks, Mill Pond. I don't know what Mill Pond resiliency is, but whatever it is, we've approved it.
We're not at, that won't be,
It'll be approved this year.
yeah.
You're right, May of '26, right. I'm tipping my hand. That, and I think you might want to explain, Patrick, the amounts don't quite come out exact, but the amount of the motion is $10,407,163, and Patrick put a little bit more money into that amount to account for financing of the notes to go out, so that we would not have to play with money in an awkward way to support the financing. You got to issue bonds. It costs thousands of dollars to issue these things. So that's included in the 10,407. If you just added up the raw numbers, it's a little bit less.
Yeah, we've accounted about little under $250,000
Yeah.
for issue costs. We have a pretty large bond going on for the police station, so this issue cost there for underwriters' fees is also what our financial advisors' fee is for brokering the transaction, and any other issue costs there. So that way, we're not rolling that in and paying interest on those costs, which is sometimes an option here. But as Frank mentioned, this is a big year. The next 2 years are big years for debt service, and as far as really just bringing on the debt that's been previously authorized. Obviously, the police station, we're going out in about a month to issue that, so as well as a bond anticipation note for Fox Hill, which will bring us to the next year as far as cash flow goes, and then the field reconstruction or replacement at the middle school, a ban there, and then a ban for the HVAC project for this building and the annex. So we've been working with our financial advisor. We had our rating call with S&P. We are hoping for continued favorable rates in the direction that they've been heading in the last several weeks. We've been monitoring with our financial advisor, so ideally the picture is better than what we're looking at on the page right now, based on those results. So we are much anticipation for particularly the police station, as that's a long-term issue.
So for the May 26 items, they'll be on the warrant. We'll be getting the capital budget assessment of that, and then we get to vote on that. We're assuming these amounts and that those will be put onto the warrant, which is included in this
Sure.
budget. So we've got a budget for it. They still need to be approved warrants.
Okay.
Right, those won't hit the budget until
28.
28 or even 29, depending on how we structure the borrowing there, but,
But the obligations would come in.
correct, and we would be budgeting them based on, you know, what we think those right now are budgeted as borrowing the full cost of the project. We could end up issuing bans, but, you know, what I tried to do in this is, I'm glad you brought up the sort of future years here, is not all of these projects that are listed here will be able to be funded within the current long-range financial plan. So there's a, particularly with some of the Mill Pond projects and the improvements there, I was just talking to the DPW director earlier. These are sort of the projects that we know right now based on what was submitted as part of the capital improvement program for the 5 years. And so we're really trying to make an effort to get those requests in and have this be balanced for the next 5 years. We're in a little bit of a transition year to get that balanced. So ideally, next year, that bottom line will be something that we know we will be able to fund within the confines of the long-range plan and the capital target. This gets us pretty close, but what we do behind the scenes with this is a debt projection tool to understand how much we need to reduce each project by for meeting the current target, and how much we need to, in some cases, push off, which we've already done. Some of that is reflected here. Actually, a big part of that is reflected here for pushing projects out. So my thanks to department heads that have already been very receptive to that. So what you see here, there's likely or almost guaranteed additional push out or realignment. So thanks, Frank, for bringing that up.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What interest rate are you assuming in this plan here?
So for everything but the police station, we're using 4%. Everything else, we're using 4.5%. The only difference is we have more data and we're closer to issuance.
Makes sense. Then just, yeah, I know this is intentional for a moment, but just so we all understand, this doesn't include Shawsheen right now, which would be excluded debt presumably.
Correct.
But still, you know, at 20, our potential of 20% hit, it could be something close to 60 million.
Yeah, we're factoring that within a couple of places and sort of the back of the house capital improvement projections in our debt projection tool.
Okay. And and this is greatly given here, by the way. It may be a useful line, given what you're saying, that, you know, we don't quite have things that fit in the plan yet in total. It might be worthwhile just to add a line of, here's the target we're shooting for, just so people get a sense of, you know.
How far off we are?
Yeah, a budget
and
line.
in particular, go down and not up.
Yeah, I think the capital plan itself has that line at the bottom.
Yeah,
that says,
it would be useful.
based on, you know,
It would be useful.
versus
here,
target.
Just to keep driving that point home,
Yes,
I think.
we do have that, and I think that makes perfect sense.
Great, thank you.
So one of the things, just to point out on the, you'll see in the proposed that the projects that have, you know, the first 5 or 6 of them that have already been approved, you'll see that the field, the middle school field project has 2 different lines. You see one that says 2.77 and then one that says 1.77. There were 2 approvals, however, the first approval was for 4.77. We already borrowed, we had a band for that, and we programmed in last year's operating budget. We used to talk about the smoothing effect we knew we were going to get 2 next year, and we were going to need a budget of around that amount, and we didn't want to stay here and then do that. So we were able to pay off that $2 million ban issue and $500,000 of a water ban that will never make it on our debt schedule. We took out the first ban, we're paying it off next month from the operating budget, and now that's $2 million that's just going to stay off our debt schedule. So that was, you know, one of those benefits that we've been talking so long about we knew when these 2 projects hit where we were going to land and how we were going to get there over smoothing out the increases. So.
Other questions? Yep, Roger?
This may be sort of too much detail, but for, I guess, for the police station, right? We've got an authorized amount. We've got some estimates about, that have been updated over time about what we think it'll actually cost. How, when you're going to borrow the amount that you're going to choose, pick the amount that you're going to borrow, which of those numbers do you use, and do you plan to pay for any part of the police station potentially with free cash or something to avoid putting it on the?
So we basically seeded it with the amount we would have had to ban last year to spend the money this year, with that $5 million we used from free cash for both of those projects. It was basically the first $5 million in that capital fund came from free cash, so we didn't have to issue a ban last year. Because of the bond market right now is much better than we thought it was going to be, and because of the cost avoidance from the bids, we're looking to ban just over 34 million and hoping that's going to, our bond permanently borrow right now, that 34 million, and hopefully that's it that we borrow for that project. So we'll end up, so based on what the cost estimate, what our contract is now, plus some contingencies, we're hopeful to come in at that amount with a debt service savings of $12 million, but.
Over the life of the bond.
Correct, but was also, that includes the 5 million we already saved by using free cash.
Right,
For the
okay.
first 5 million, so it's
So-
like another 7 million.
All right,
Yes.
so if the actual costs are over or under that bond amount, where's that come from? Or if you end up borrowing too much, what happens to the excess? Or if it's not?
Yes, so there's.
I mean, I know they're going to hit the numbers because they've been very good about that. And-
Yep. So there's very strict regulations on what you can do with that money. So we would have to come back, or depending on the amount of it, if we borrowed too much money, which if it is too much, it's not going to be a whole lot too much. We would have to come back and it'd have to be used for something that has the same lifespan and is the same type of borrowing you issued. Because, say you couldn't go and then buy dump trucks with it because you can only ban for dump trucks over 5 years. Borrow for dump trucks over 5 years. We borrowed for 25 years. So it'd have to be something building related.
But you could pay the bond off soon,
If the bond allowed for
early payment.
early payment, we could do that.
And there's usually not a penalty for that.
Okay,
There probably is for the first 10 years.
Yeah, okay, we'll see. Let's get there.
thanks.
Any other questions?
Move to
Motion.
approve?
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve $10,407,163 for debt service. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0. Sorry, didn't mean to step on you.
That's okay. We all know what's
I
going on.
guessed your vote. Unemployment?
No, thanks. Not personally, anyway.
You're already unemployed.
So,
It's an estimate.
yeah, unemployment has hovered around $100,000 for the last several years. We're just recommending we have a small adjustment to it. Hopefully, we don't see the activity in this account, but we have seen some activity in the account this year that is different from prior years. We're hoping to see actually be reimbursed for some of that based on appeal, but generally trying to just increase a small amount for these areas that do have a corresponding increase based on wages and benefit levels. So just a small increase for next year.
Questions?
And that's townwide, teachers,
Town and school.
municipal, everybody.
Yeah,
And self-insured.
Right.
Right, and it's self, right.
We're sort of allowed to pay the claims as they happen. It's not like they're coming
Rather
off.
than be
It's a
tariffed
little
by
bit
the
different.
state.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's something I'm not understanding that seems inconsistent here that I'm digging up right now. It looks like year-to-date, we're way under this year, according to the budget, but according to one of the cover letters, it says that we're 5% over, so I'm not sure I understand that.
Yeah, so the year-to-date was January 22nd, I believe, so we're about $5,000 over the budget from last year at this point. That could end up resulting in not that full liability based on some activity we've seen at the appeal level. So.
We're over the year-to-date budgeted or the total 100K budget?
The total $100,000 budget for us.
Oh, so we've spent 90K since January essentially? Am I reading that right?
I don't know.
I tell you right
The
now.
122 date shows 11,439.
Really bad in Q1.
Right now, it's 121,000, so.
So do we have a really bad Q1 then? Is that what that's saying, 90K extra?
That may be a mistake on that because we've had pretty consistent, I'm trying to see when the big this amounts came in.
Yeah, in January, we were at 90, at the end of January, we had spent 95,000. At the end of January, we had spent 95,000.
So the spend listed here is not correct at 11, I guess?
We'll get it.
Okay. All right, that explains that then. All right, thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries. And then just one more.
Sure.
The site, and this is sort of a general question. Do we have stop loss on our unemployment?
No.
Only on health.
Okay, so why we have it on health, and obviously property and liability insurance is sort of a stop loss in a sense. Are there any, other than unemployment, are there any other uncapped liabilities, I'll call it?
Workers' comp.
Yeah.
Workers' comp?
Workers' comp.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Unemployment is capped because we only have so many employees.
Yeah, so it's really a big cap. But big point.
That's more like decapitation, I think, but.
Well said, Roger.
Any other questions? I would only say that I was reading an article about another town, Marblehead, and they're having to lay off quite a few people to manage their budget. And one of the points they made was that for every 2 people you lay off, you have to lay off a third to cover the cost of
Yeah,
laying
well,
off the first 2. So it really spirals down. You can get to that cap pretty quick.
Yep.
Yeah. Now I'm ready.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve $105,000 for the unemployment line item. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Grasso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0. Town insurance.
No anticipated increase, or we expect the budget from '26 to be able to cover the premiums for '27, so we are not seeking an increase in this budget for next year.
Questions?
The obvious one, so insurance costs haven't gone up, or our total assets being covered have not gone up? Seems unlikely on both of those.
Yeah, I think that they haven't gone up to at the pace that we expected them to go up when this budget was increased.
Okay.
But now they are, it's right about there. So I think that probably for '28, there'll be a small increase, but where we are for '27, we feel the budget can cover it, and then a very small amount for any unexpected things that require insurance, and we're not budget,
Great, thanks.
How are we for claims?
Say it again?
Claims against us this year? Yeah?
Okay.
That good? Awesome.
You don't ask about the state buffer.
Don't jinx it.
Other questions? No?
Move to approve?
Second.
So So we have a motion and a second to approve the town insurance line item at $1,700,000. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan? Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 1100. Financial services.
Okay, so we increased this, to sort of right-size it, I think a year ago, maybe? Right?
Yep,
Am I
so-
right? Yeah. And so we're sort of tracking okay. And it's a prediction, right? We don't really know if we'll run into something that we need to audit outside of the required audits. So I would say that this budget is healthy and it's right size. And we went along with the increase they asked for.
3,500, 5%.
Yeah. And also, there's a consolidation in the industry on who even does this for you. I think it's Powers and Sullivan is a firm that we've always worked with. They've been bought out by another company. It's still pretty much the same people that know our business, so that's good. That helps us with how much it costs them to do it. But there is consolidation in who even offers these services to municipalities going on.
So this funds our annual audit, which is townwide, which is both town and school. All of our financial data is audited by the audit firm. The audit itself costs $65,000. We've always budgeted for the audit and then a little bit of money to do any directed financial reports we would need to do, or any for financial services that we needed a department that, if there was for instance, when our long-term treasurer retired and a new treasurer was coming on board, we did some work in there, like a full cash audit because there was a turnover in that position. So something like that. Now, with this is the last year of our contract. We were with Powers and Sullivan always for a long time here. The market has changed. Powers and Sullivan was bought by a firm named Markham that was moving into Massachusetts. Markham was then bought by CBiz, which is now the biggest audit firm. They bought the two biggest municipal audit firms in Mass, Melanson and Heath, and Powers and Sullivan. So there's not a whole lot of options out there, so we're worried that the price will go up. We're figuring probably not more than $5,000-ish, so maybe our 65 becomes 70, and it leaves us a little bit of wiggle room for, in case it goes way up, or versus to have a little bit of money to do some directed financial services in different departments. So we've been a long-term customer for them. Our team didn't actually change. There was some growing pains for the systems they used on how they do their quality assurance. But because we had the same team here, we didn't have any delays. We still were able to produce our annual comprehensive financial report by the deadline of 12/31. So we're in good shape. If we were going to go out for an RFP just to test the market, I don't even know how many bids we'd get. There's just not a lot of people doing it anymore, so.
Questions? John?
Yeah, I'm just curious about that. So, is it that the municipal audit market is so specialized that, like, any old CPA can't do it, or?
Correct, it is, really.
Okay.
Yep. And it's, I don't know that any old CPA would want to dedicate any resources to it, really, just because it is specialized. And I think that's what, the CBiz had no presence in Mass. I think as far they got this way was New York. And now they're the biggest around here, so.
Okay.
Anything else? A motion?
Move to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve financial services line item at $73,500. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes?
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan?
Yes.
Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 1100. Middlesex Retirement.
So, We are one of many members in the Middlesex Retirement Fund. Our contribution is figured out on the basis of how many people, how many clients we have in it, and spread the costs. An interesting thing about this is that, you know, they've been predicting that this fund would close down sooner rather than later, but I'm not sure at the rates that they've been charging that we're actually going to hit the pay down. So the increase that we've got is really not that much, but it's unclear to me if it's going to be enough going forward. But we have no choice in this, right? We're a member of it. It's an obligation we have. And the fund has actually been historically funded by garnishing employees' wages. The problem that we got into is that the wages weren't keeping up with, the garnish wasn't keeping up with the wages, and the county, the fund got way behind. I think it's been rejiggered twice, if I'm not mistaken. But in any event, this has been running now for maybe more than 15 years on this plan, quite a while. We're fairly far into it. That's our assessment. And I don't think that there's anything we can really do to change it or improve it that I could see.
No, as Frank said, we're part of a regional retirement system, and they assess us an amount based on the contribution required to meet the current funding target date, the sort of the unfunded liability, excuse me, portion, as well as the normal cost of running the plan. And then that's where we end up with the assessment that they provide to us. And so, as Frank said, you know, the Middlesex retirement system isn't in the sort of top 25% or so in best funded plans right now. So it's something that I think I've talked to this group before, kind of like on the watch list of, you know, it's a 6.65% increase over last year right now. I think that as we start to see valuations that are depending on market returns, but as we start to see the valuations closer to that date, you know, I think that's an area that we could see some pretty significant increases for and being ready for those. So it's definitely on our sort of short, medium-term watch list about where this budget could be.
Roger.
So we don't control this either, but how are the number of people entering and leaving the retirement program? What are the current trends? And
So, you know, I think that I guess what I'm saying, leaving the retirement system would be a death, right?
right, yeah.
So.
That is the way you leave.
It's the nice way we say it.
Yeah. So I'd have to look back at previous valuations to see the difference in the changes of the retired participants there. But we have more. We have more inactive than we do active retirees in the system right now. So we have more people that either aren't taking a pension or are currently working towards a pension than we do that are collecting a pension. But as far as the number of people that are, the number of retirees that have been paid benefits, I don't have that off the top of my head. I have to go back and look at previous valuations.
Okay.
But that's pretty easy to dig that up. I can get
Yeah, that's fine.
So all of the employees that work here for the town and the school in a non-licensed position, so this would be like a para or IA, instructional aid, or a clerical position, or somebody that isn't licensed by DESE, or the licensed people for DESE would be in the Mass Teachers Retirement System, which is different, and that's, the funding for that to be fully funded comes from the state. So this would include town and school employees, but not teachers or licensed, so it's a lot.
Thanks.
Deb?
On the valuation, so I see the 16, 222 is in the budget, sorry, 16,222,000. What's the difference between that versus the number right above it?
Single pay. So you get a discount if you make one payment
Oh,
rather than two payments, which would be July, half of it, and actually not, it's a little more than half. And then January or December, you'd have to pay the other. So the treasurer does a little calculation of if we kept that extra 7 million for 5 months, could we make enough to make it? And it wasn't worth it, so we take the discount.
Anything else? Oh, Cheyenne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What is what is the ratio of contribution from the state versus how much the municipalities do?
How much does the state contribute? Is that what you're asking?
Right, what is that ratio?
So the state doesn't contribute anything to this. This is just funded by employee contributions.
Sorry, I thought you just said it was state funded.
No.
That's the teachers, so the school employees that are licensed, either licensed teachers or a few licensed administrators are part of the Mass Teachers Retirement System, which is the state plan.
But everybody that's in these retirement plans, their paychecks are garnished. I believe municipal employees and
11%.
11%, and I don't know what the teachers are garnished, but, they all, in theory, are paying for their own retirements. The reason that we're in this rut is that there's a historical underpayment that had been going, under garnishing back 20 years or more, probably.
Yeah, a long
That's a
time.
big catch-up.
Yeah, it used to, the withholding used to be 5%, then 7, then 9,
Yeah, they-
then
it
9
was
plus
way
2,
Sorry.
then
To
11.
clarify, my question was regarding Middlesex.
Yes, for Middlesex, no state contributions.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anything else?
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to fund the Middlesex retirement line item at $16,222,772. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan? Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 1100. Medicare.
So this is our, this funds employee Medicare costs on an active basis, so 1.45% of wages. And based on where we are with the account year-to-date, or where we expect to be over the last year, we're recommending a 5% increase for the Medicare as that's connected to wages.
And Medicare is different from Social Security. Employees that work for municipality don't have Social Security withheld, and the municipality doesn't have to match that. But they do have Medicare withheld, and the employer has to match that. So as the wages go up, the employees are paying 1.45, and so is the town.
Yeah, this is one of the hidden costs of COLAs and salary increases, right? Your benefit costs do go up.
John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, this is a straight pass-through of employee withholding, or this is our share.
Right.
We have to match
They
it.
have 1.45 and we have
Yeah,
1.45.
Yeah, it's our match.
Got it, okay.
That's our overhead.
Ed?
Thank you. So this number caught my eye, because if that's 1.45% of our wages and salaries, then we have $112 million in wages and salaries,
Yep.
going up at 5%. And we're trying to keep our budget increase this year to 4.25%, 4% next year, 3.75 following years. 112 million is 56% of our budget, round numbers. That means the other 44% has to go up by eventually no more than 2.2%.
Right.
And yet, in that 44%, we've got accommodated accounts are going up by a lot more than 5%. We have a lot of benefits that aren't among those wages that presumably go up in lockstep with the 5%. So that doesn't seem like a sustainable situation in any way.
No, I mean, that's, our wages wouldn't be going up 5% if our contracts were less than they are now. It wouldn't be a whole bunch less, but they really need to be a point lower than they are in order for us to operate the way we want to. I mean, we don't have a whole lot of discretionary funds in anybody's budget. So in those where you have to hold the line, that's where you have to say we're level funding all of these accounts because we got to try to stay in it.
So I think a soapbox is necessary here. I want people to be aware that if our projections for new growth are about right, then there are very few ways out here. And the biggest line items are people.
Right,
And
yeah.
so either the negotiated contracts are going to have lower increases, which is not possible over the next couple of years because they're negotiated a few years out, or we lay people off. And that's why I'm asking everyone, what are your total costs, fully baked? What are the benefits? How do you segment your operations? Because we may have hard choices to make in the future.
Well, I think you have to look at attrition, too. Before we start to lay people off, we should be
Yes.
more aggressive and say, do we need to replace this person? I mean, at some point, we've got to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about it when we're about to pass the budget. Nobody wants to talk about it when we're setting the budget. So that's like a July and August thing, or you have to put it off a whole other year, but I think it's something we should talk about.
Well, I think when there are opportunities to not replace somebody because of attrition, I think the departments do think about that, but I don't.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will say, we do have a conversation after every retirement. Is there anything we're doing different that, do we have to, fill that spot?
Right, but if we get,
Treasurer's office in past years have taken advantage of that. I'm not saying it's automatic.
Yeah.
Or does it always work
Right.
out, but it is a topic that comes up. And, I mean, your suggestion that we need to talk about it more just says we need to emphasize that as an opportunity to,
right, I think it just has to be a harder conversation.
it is a
Yeah.
harder conversation.
Because that's a way better conversation than which person goes.
Right.
And that's
But
a
it's
terrible
not- it's
conversation.
not usually level service anymore.
Right?
Correct.
That's
It-
probably something we have to come to face pretty soon.
The which person goes is an easier conversation too, is the newest. We're in a union environment. It's different for jobs that include certification,
Sure.
stuff like that, because then that comes into play. But if you're just talking about the regular, most of the employees, that's, if there's a RIF, a cut, a budget cut, a job loss due to budget, it's going to be the newest person.
Right.
That's how the union works.
Right,
Yeah, usually those are prescribed by,
sure.
and we're not,
I should say that's how the contract works, not how the union works. That's-
Yeah.
Burlington is not the only town that this is in their future. There are a couple of towns.
This
right
town's
now,
doing it right now.
They're all,
Marblehead's laying off 25 teachers.
And if I can elaborate, Middleborough is evaluating between 5 and 20% cuts. Southampton has a $2.6 million deficit. Stoneham was considering closing the library, which I can say because our family isn't here, but they passed an override, so they wouldn't have to do that. Brookline was in the news just last week with a big gap, and 75% of municipalities in the Commonwealth are between 95 and 99% of their levy capacity. And that is all, for those listening at home, because inflation was higher than the 2.5% that the state limits us to increase our levy. And so everybody's in this situation. We're not unique. But if we think about how we handle this ahead of time, it'll be less painful than just waiting for the crisis like the towns we just mentioned.
And don't hang on the opportunity of the state to increase the Prop 2.5 number. I
No,
don't think
there's a-
anybody's got a big appetite for that.
There's an article in the Globe almost every day about communities in Proposition 2.5. There was one this morning or yesterday morning, I'm forgetting when I read it, but it was about all the communities that have override votes in the next several weeks. Each one seems to be a record from the previous one, and it's something that Proposition 2.5 and changes to general government aid is what the MMA is talking about pretty consistently. It's what our peers are talking about, how they're wrestling with it. And, the last 3 years, the number of communities with overrides has been pretty staggering. So I think the challenge that we have is, how many years we're in a much different position as far as the amount of excess levy capacity we have being very different from a composition from many, many other communities. But that doesn't mean that's not going to be property tax impacts. That actually means the use of that will require property tax impacts. So it's almost like, these self-funded override. I know that sounds almost, like an oxymoron, but that's essentially what it becomes if we start to use more of the levy than we have been. And then trying to look out what date or what year that levy is no longer available, even with some sort of consistent use of it over time. But yeah, I think that understanding the costs of the things that we buy, so inflation and the cost of goods and services and those things that are seeing inflationary impacts to, as John mentioned earlier, the posture that has to occur in negotiating contracts and the external pressures that force those, and all of the factors that go into that, those become community conversations pretty quick when negotiations go a different way. So a lot of community conversations and priority setting around that.
Any other bleak comments? Anything positive?
I forget what we're in the middle of, but can I move to
Medicare.
approve?
Do we have a second?
Second.
So we have a motion to approve the Medicare line item at $1,627,500. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan? Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes,
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0. Ways and Means Reserve Fund, $200,000.
Yeah, we did that several meetings back, 200, that's status quo. And whether we use it or not, who knows? I believe I think there might be one pending encumbrance on the reserve fund. I might be wrong about that. I thought you mentioned that. No? Okay, so it's.
Yeah, we may be there. We may be asking for one this year.
Yeah. So it's just, goes back to free cash if we don't need it. The purpose of it is to be able to actually emergency fund small to medium-sized things without having to schedule a special town meeting or not be able to get the money, like a water main that blows up and you gotta rent some piece of equipment. So we level funded it.
Questions? A motion?
move to approve?
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second for the Ways and Means Reserve Fund, $200,000. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan? Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick
Yes.
Rosso? No, I want to make sure I heard Paul.
Yes,
And Roger Riggs, yes.
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0. Negotiated settlements.
Okay, any questions? We use this for a variety of things that close out settlements, retirements, contracts that are settling later. It's down a little bit, mostly because we don't see the need, I think. We have enough settled things. And we voted 200 for this. I don't expect us to need any more than what this is, even though it's down quite a bit from the previous year based on contracts that are open.
Correct. So yes, this would be, negotiated settlements funds are outstanding labor contracts, and also, so we have an allocation here for the firefighter union contract for FY '26 and FY '27, as well as funding for the compensation plan that's on an annual basis for the non-union, or the administrative and professionals, that classification plan there. So, last year, the budget was much higher to account for the contracts that were settled for that 3-year, so the majority of all the contracts for that year. And then this year, we just have the 2 years' worth of funding for one union and then 1 year for the non-union group.
Schools have their own way of handling this for school salary increases.
So did we, I'm sorry, are there questions?
I've got one. I know one of the components of the negotiated settlements is buybacks when people retire. And at some point, I remember we were trying to tighten up the policy about how much accrued vacation or anything. Has that been effective in terms of putting an upper limit on the amount of buybacks that are pending?
So ours is all contractual. The big push on that end was on the school side.
Okay.
That was with us, ours is all contractual. And what we try to do is, as much as you can, which does happen in public safety sometimes, or DPW, if someone leaves, they try to absorb that in their operating budget within the lag of when someone retired and when someone started. But this, whatever is left over in this is kind of the place we can go to help those. And when we have a bad year, several years ago, you may remember, we had a slew of retirements in the fire department that all just happened to start together, and they were all leaving together. And we got a appropriation from free cash to set aside some money for accrued buybacks for that big cohort that was going out, because there's just no way for us to budget that kind of money in the operating budget to do it. So there's a little bit of money in this for there, but it's, in a year where we have no settled contracts, we don't get too much into the details of how much is in there for each, because it gives away your position. But the unions pretty much know what the market is, given what the other unions have settled contracts. So it's a little easier for us to budget for this line. So like Patrick said, there's one union that will be out, that, it isn't in, they aren't settled for this year. So we have to account for that and for next year, assuming they settle. And then there's the A&P, which is every year. We have to do it this way.
Great, thanks.
I'm not sure how to ask this or what to say. So we have one unsettled contract that is carried over. I hope that they're not going to put us out of line with what we did with all the other contracts, just because they're last and they are dragging their feet, or we're dragging ours, or whatever. You don't have to comment. Just a
That would be inconsistent
Point.
with our philosophy.
thank you. I was hoping that was the case. Okay. Any questions? Any other questions or veiled comments?
Move to approve?
Motion and second for negotiated settlements line item of $745,000. Cheyenne?
Yes.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Nyler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan? Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Grasso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0.
What's that?
Thank you.
Do we need a vote on the total of any of this? No, right?
No.
They're all individual
Yeah.
at town meeting. Okay. We're all set. It's all for Town Hall 1.
Thanks, Town Hall 1.
David,
Thank Ed Parsons. He helped John. Need all the help I can get.
Okay. Oh,
Did you go over a summary of who's coming when for, I know Patrick's going to put up the capital warrant.
yeah, I just said we're going to have the capital warrant scheduled tomorrow. Will be out. The updated rest of the budget hearing schedule was updated this evening before the meeting, so it's on the committee website. Schools, we moved to May 6th, fires on April 8th, a couple of little things that shifted around, but nothing major. So warrants will be whatever the,
Yeah, so we'll have warrant articles on April 8th.
Yep.
yeah.
So you'll have the regional school will be here for their stuff, and then we have some that we're proposing to do that
Okay.
night too, so that you'll still be able to skip the vacation week.
Right, and then the week, then, we skip vacation week.
Yeah, we would do predominantly do
Wednesday, April.
DPW on 4/13,
Yeah,
and then some others, and then 4/29 recreation and some other,
right.
and then you
Then
have
May
May
6th
for the
will be
whole,
school.
just for the school.
School's operating budget and
Okay.
warrants.
Under the wire.
So when that goes up tomorrow, just keep in mind that it isn't official yet. The warrant isn't closed until Monday, really. Friday's the last day to submit, so maybe a little tweak to that. But the numbers, the article numbers could change, and
Sure.
we're doing best guess.
Any additions can go on Monday, May the 11th at 6:30 PM in the cafeteria. All right. High school, there's a meeting tomorrow night.
Thanks, guys, for all your help.
Thank you, guys, very much.
Thank you, John.
Anything from Fox Hill?
No, the most recent meeting yesterday, the contractor is CTA. It's the same contractor that's done several other buildings in town, including the police station.
Yeah, Marshall Simons
yeah,
Memorial,
yeah, they've-
the DPW building, yeah,
Yep.
personal
They're
contract.
starting to put together a schedule. They expect to start showing up at Fox Hill in terms of construction, fencing, and other things, starting April vacation week.
Awesome.
And they're looking for a groundbreaking beginning of May or somewhere around there.
Awesome.
So it's going to get moving. And there'll be a lot of communication around changes in traffic or no changes in traffic and stuff, so. Yeah.
And athletic fields, Chris isn't here, I don't know anything different, and Rob's not here for the electronic voting. Yes?
just had a quick question about the fields. There was something about, it's the stands is my question. There is something about, because they were temporary and not permanent, that it affected the restroom policy or something. What exactly was that?
I believe if you have permanent stands, then you have to have a restroom size that's appropriate to if those stands were full.
Can you porta potties? Or
No,
they're not allowed? So what I'm wondering is.
no, I guess you can have porta potties, and then you can only have, you could have just one if you wanted, but if you
Okay,
have
so I
fixed
just wanna
bathrooms.
Make sure the fact that permanent stands are part of this plan doesn't require us to do a middle school concession.
I don't believe permanent stands,
Pavilion or
I don't think permanent stands are part of this.
No.
I think there
I
are
saw
stands,
in there, maybe I.
they're on wheels.
very
It'd be
cool.
hard to move them, but you could move them.
Okay, good, all right.
I believe that was the original
All right,
plan.
but regardless, it doesn't affect them.
Should not, I believe, yeah.
Or
But
need to
when we,
build something else is why I wanted to make sure.
yeah, I think there's a warrant article for feasibility study for bathrooms, so it'll be a good question.
Separate
No,
issue. Okay,
no, at the
thank
same
you.
time, I don't think I know where to go to get a complete view of the current plan.
Great question.
What, what is the plan?
What happens when you
Right.
go rogue? Yeah, I don't either.
I'll have to dig some more.
Maybe we could task Chris with getting the answer to that.
Maybe that's why you didn't come.
He's looking for a plan.
He's looking for it in Florida. So minutes, I sent the minutes out. Meg, you did a great job. Got a couple of comments back. First time you did a good job.
Yep.
I'll send you the comments just so you can kind of get an idea. I made the suggestions for Ed and John, and so everybody feel comfortable voting on the minutes?
Yep.
Yep.
As amended?
As amended, I'm sorry, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. Cheyenne?
Yes, as amended.
Chris Campbell?
Yes.
John Eiler?
Yes.
Deb McCarthy?
Yes.
Frank Monaco?
Yes.
Steve Moran?
Yes.
Paul Noonan? Ed Parsons?
Yes.
Rick Rosso?
Yes.
Roger Riggs?
Yes.
Chair votes yes, 11-0-0. Have anything else? Chris?
Super fast. Just because some people are interested, Education Subcommittee, we're meeting on Shawshene on April 6th from 7 to 8:30 PM. It's going to be both in person and virtual. I do need to follow up with you about potentially booking this room because no one's booking it, and if that's a possibility, but, and then I'll send that agenda. And then we just locked in the Education Subcommittee for Burlington Public Schools. It's going to be April 8th, both Thursday nights, 4:30 PM to 6:30, and then April 16th, 4:30 to 6:30. And there will also be WebEx and in person. Those will likely be at the Burlington High School, as we've done in the past. And then an item I'd like to put on the agenda for next week is some type of a discussion on how much money we should be asking more in the budgets. Like if they say MISC, is MISC okay for a $10,000 ask? I mean, when looking at the school committee, the school budget, there's a lot, like central office supplies is $10,000. Do we need more information? Do we want more information when we're looking at things like that? And that comes up in some of our other budgets too, but is there a number where we as a committee feel we might want more explanation? If it's $26,000 for athletic equipment, what athletic equipment? What is it? You know, so just, I think some guidelines from the committee would be good, and just general discussion on where we feel before pushing back on some of these budgets, but something that continued to come up year after year, and just saying as a committee where we might, you know, is it 50 grand, is it, or do we want past years' information before? So just something I'd love to put on the agenda for next time so we can all talk about it.
Can you reiterate the dates? I got that.
Yeah, so April 6th, it's a Monday, 7 to 8:30 is the Shawshene Education Subcommittee meeting. And then April 8th is Thursday.
It's the 9th.
Is it the 9th?
Yes, the 9th is a Thursday.
Oh, wow, thank you. 9th, April 9th. Yes, because April 8th is when we're meeting for Shawshene. April 9th, thank you. 4:30 to 6:30 PM. And then April 16th, also a Thursday, 4:30 to 6:30 PM.
Thank you.
We're going to update that on the
Okay. Anything else? I'm sending you how to schedule the room.
Perfect.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Is there a soft copy of the Burlington School Committee budget and also the Shawshene budget that can be sent out?
Yeah, I can send those out. We have Shawshene's. We only have the superintendent's budget at the moment. But
No,
yeah,
understood.
yeah, but yeah, can get those out tonight.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Yep.
I wonder if we should put those on the Ways and Means website.
Yeah, that would be best.
Or at least a link to the one that's on the school, I mean, the superintendent's budget is on the superintendent's page on
Yeah.
at the high
right.
school.
Yeah, link them with the other budgets would be great.
I will. So y'all do that, but I can email what I got. Yeah. I don't know, but I can email this.
All right. I'll see if I can't get that link, schools. Okay. Anything else? Motion and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.